Momentum is back on the Philadelphia Phillies side after they took 2 of 3 from the New York Mets and have now won 9 of their last 11. And it is clear that pitching is at the epicenter of the blueprint for success this season, with Rob Thomson pulling all the right strings in this rotation. But there are still some decisions on the horizon for the management of this pitching staff as they continue to progress through this year and we really hit the stretch of the season. I want to discuss the latest change that Rob Thomson has broken down with this Phillies team and really project forward to what this rotation is going to look like moving forward. So let's get right into the topic of today. And you want to start off with this article. Shout out to Sean Nestor of Philly Sports Network, who broke down a little bit of info from Rob Thomson here. And the article states, ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies road trip against the Houston Astros and Atlanta Braves, Phillies manager Rob Thomson announced a shuffle of the starting pitching rotation. The update. Ranger Suarez will start on Tuesday for the Phillies, opening up their series against the Astros. He will toe the rubber against fellow left-hander Framber Valdez. Zack Wheeler will then start Game 2 on Wednesday against Colton Gordon. When it comes to Zack Wheeler, there has been a focus on keeping the ace starting pitcher on a standard 4 days of rest as much as possible. Historically, he owns a 2.98 ERA on standard rest, increasing to 3.6 if he has an additional day off. The same trend remains constant looking at just 2025, with him owning a strong 2.32 ERA across 5 starts on normal rest. With 5 days of rest, it increases to 3.14. And kind of interesting that is the case, but pitchers are creatures of habit, and I do think it goes with this. And the article continues to state, keeping Wheeler on 4 days rest means 2 extra days of rest for Christopher Sanchez. Sanchez will start on 6 days rest on Thursday, a getaway day game against Hunter Brown, who's been terrific this year. Sanchez has started on 6+ days of rest 18 times in his career, pitching a strong 3.22 ERA. Mick Abel and Ranger Suarez will then slide into their typical slots on Friday and Saturday, respectively, and the Phillies open up their series against Atlanta. And to put a bow on it, the rationale that in addition to keeping Wheeler on normal rest, this move allows the Phillies to split their 3 left-handed pitchers in Suarez, Sanchez, and Luzardo. The trio have been slated back-to-back-to-back, now with Sanchez switching slots with Wheeler. The only 2 left-handers that will pitch back-to-back is when the rotation shifts from Luzardo to Suarez. Despite some recent struggles, the Phillies' starting rotation is still believed to be one of the best in Major League Baseball. Currently, the rotation owns a 3.50 ERA, the 7th best in the league, while also owning the most innings pitched at 434 and strikeouts per 9 at 9.56 in the National League. And to hit on that a little bit deeper here, just acknowledging how good this Phillies bullpen has been, that they have a 2.83 ERA in June, and this being the starting pitching, not bullpen, excuse me there. And that brings me to the real story of this video here, is that while we've kind of acknowledged this for a while now, it is on full display right here that the blueprint to the Phillies' success is purely built around their starting pitching. That we've done the era of Phillies baseball where they're going to mash home runs, they're going to outscore teams, they're going to fit as many power hitters into a lineup regardless of what it does to your defense. We've seen this experiment, which did not take us to a World Series. There's a clear commitment to continuing to build out this pitching staff, and there are a couple names to keep in mind. So I know that this article already cycled through, and we know what we have in Zack Wheeler, who's been terrific, but there are other variables in this equation. For starters, Mick Abel. The first time we saw him look scared against this Mets team, where he was just letting home runs off left and right there. And beyond that, I understand you're going to get hit around sometimes at the majors. I saw a little bit of the look in his eye that I did not want to see. And for McAble specifically, it's been a pretty rapid climb once again, that this guy was sort of off the map as far as prospect goes. There was a ton of promise, a ton of hope when he was first drafted, and he really strayed from that developmental path. He found something this year, sort of reinvented himself a bit as a pitcher, and has looked excellent through his first couple starts with this Phillies team, but I do wonder how much of this is sustainable. And then the man of the hour, as it pertains to all the pitching conversations, is of course Andrew Painter here. And we do have an update that Andrew Painter spins 5 frames of 2-run ball for AAA Iron Pigs, racking up 5 Ks and topping out at 99.3 miles per hour in the process. The number 2 pitching prospect in baseball has allowed 2 runs or fewer in 9 of his last 12 outings. There was a little bit of stretch where Painter was struggling. It does seem like he's back on track, and the clear diagnosis or why things were going wrong is there just wasn't getting enough movement on his fastball. I do think, to be fair to Andrew Painter here, that the expectations have gotten a little bit out of control. That I think there is a portion of the Phillies fan base that are expecting this guy from day one to be like the missing piece on this Phillies team, and I do not think that is fair to throw on his shoulders. Realistically, the more that I kind of think through this, I do wonder if we're even going to see Andrew Painter to any significant sample size here. I think they will season him a little, give him a little bit of an MLB opportunity because they've been open about that as their desire since spring training started. But I don't know how much he's truly going to be ingratiated into this Phillies rotation. Because let's talk through it, the names that we are all discussing here. And I did want to pull up the multi-year sheet here on Spot Track here because we got to talk about both the short-term and long-term with each of these guys. Right at the top with Zack Wheeler, under contract for this year and 2 more seasons, and has been very open that he's going to retire then. Zack Wheeler, we know exactly who he is as a pitcher. He is an ace. He is, on his best days, the best pitcher in baseball. And while like he may not, hit that top end or win a Cy Young or be Chris Sale or whatever people want him to fit in that image here, the bottom line is that dude is exactly who you expect him to be pretty much every time he steps on the mound. He's been excellent this year. Moving on a little bit further, Aaron Nola, of course, that this is the contract that could age pretty negatively here. That he is under contract for several more seasons here. That they did give him the big contract there, over $24 million per year. Nola's been extended to the 60-day injured list. That obviously he is a guy that we will see what happens when he gets back. I do have a little bit of concern that this could be not the Aaron Nola fall off because I do think he'll bounce back to an extent. But this dude has put so many miles on his arm, man, and he's been, to his credit, so durable that this is his first time on the injured list in like a decade outside of the COVID stint that he had during that weird season there. But for Nola this year, they need him to bounce back. And the part that I struggle with the Nola conversation is when we think about how all these pieces fit together, that with Nola specifically, does his stuff play in the bullpen? Like Ranger Suarez, if there's a squeeze that you're moving pitchers around, there's no doubt in my mind we throw Ranger in the bullpen that he's still going to do his thing. He's going to be just fine there. Aaron Nola, I don't know if that is the case, to be perfectly honest. That he's not a guy that's going to blow you away with stuff. He's a good pitcher. He knows how to set up pitches, have his stuff, and play off what he builds up there. But it isn't a guy that just has this nasty blow-by heat that, I mean, Taijuan Walker, we've seen this experience blow up in our face that he wasn't good enough as a starting pitcher, and guess what? He's not good enough in the bullpen either. I'm not saying Nola's there. He's obviously not Taijuan Walker, but I do wonder, like, what is his effectiveness if we're starting to have that conversation, which is why I do think he's basically a lock to still be a start of the pitching staff from a postseason perspective. Now, to go down the list, Ranger Suarez, we will bookmark for now, a guy who is going to be a free agent. It is going to break my heart if they do not re-sign this guy, but I do think things are trending towards this direction. But what happens year after year with this pitching staff, this Phillies pitching staff here, is we're talking about all these new names. Is Ranger dispensable? How important is this guy to this team? And then you look at the midpoint of the season, and he's their third best pitcher on the team. It's been like this year in and year out, and I kind of feel that exact same way this year. He's been great this year, Ranger has. Down the list, Jesus Luzardo, back on track. That was a grown-up performance in front of the Mets, and it is not coincidental that this guy plays his best baseball against the high-intensity opponents here. We're talking the Dodgers, we're talking the Mets, we're talking the rivalry matchups, and this is a guy who's been open about that in himself, that he put that out on the table, that it gets you a little extra fired up. I love that. Luzardo's got sauce, man. This guy's got stones. This guy's got guts. I'm in on the Jesus Luzardo experience, and obviously the Phillies are too, as there is the obviously arbitration year coming. I do expect them to fully keep Jesus Luzardo around, and he will be a part of the rotation next year. I kind of lean more towards the concept that I think the Phillies are going to hand him a super long-term deal and try and keep him a huge part of this core. He's the man. I'm in Luzardo. Christopher Sanchez, also one of the more underrated pitchers in the entire major leagues, I feel. That obviously he did get his all-star reward last year and had his full breakout, but he's continued to be this guy, and he's really settled in after a little bit of a not, I don't want to say struggle, but tough start to the season. So he's obviously under contract for the next couple of years. When you do look down this list here, that those feel like the 4 locks, or with Wheeler, with Luzardo, with Sanchez, with Nola, and then is Ranger the swing guy moving forward? Is there a spot for McAble to stick? And then, of course, there is the Andrew Painter conversation. There are some interesting conversations to have in both the short and long term. For Painter specifically, I think my biggest takeaway from that is I'm finding a hard time just seeing where he fits into this equation. I've been pretty open about my belief and my desire to see what this guy looks like in a bullpen role. The Phillies have hardcore pushback on that concept, saying how they don't want to get him out of the routine and keep him as a starting pitcher. And we envision him as a starting pitcher. And I totally get all that from the long haul. But if you're trying to actually get this guy game reps, maybe throw it where there's a weakness of the team in the bullpen here. But nonetheless, I do appreciate Rob Thomson taking every specific calculation for a guy, Rob Thomson, who I think takes far more slack than he does get credit. I think these little moves like this are something that do matter to these Phillies team. And he's got some big picture conversations and decisions looming in the future for this staff, but that is a good problem to have. That if this Phillies pitching staff is legit, if they can push close to this type of output, talking about the best ERA in the MLB in June, that would be great. And that is exactly what we're hoping for moving forward. So that's where I'm at on this Phillies team. Is I think the lifeblood, the pulse of this overall franchise, this team this year, it is the starting pitching. That how far this season goes will likely be dependent on if those arms can be the best pitching staff in baseball. Can they be better than the Dodgers? They absolutely can be better than the Mets. When you run down the list of each of these teams here, that I'm in on the Phillies starting pitching and do think that is the vehicle that is going to drive us to wherever we get this season. But let me know what you guys think about all that. Do you want to hear your thoughts on Painter and the pitching staff as a whole? Any comments that you have on mixing things up and anything else in there? Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. And if you have not already, make sure you are smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like on this video here. I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Phillies Digest. Peace.